Contrary to public perception, it is not only on the score of zoning that leaders of the main opposition, People's Democratic Party (PDP), are divided. Underlying the stringent arguments for and against zoning the party's presidential ticket is also the quiet censure against former party stalwarts that traveled to the governing All Progressive Congress (APC) as political mercenaries and helped PDP suffer defeat in 2015. Also, there is a perception that these returnee politicians may have had their chances and exhausted their political goodwill during their participation in the 2019 presidential contest. On both sides of the aisle are staunch political players for and against zoning. Prominent among those supporting the proposition for PDP to maintain its zoning principle are Governor Nyesom Wike, whose presidential ambition is being supported by his counterparts from Abia and Enugu State, Dr. Okezi Ikpezu and Ifeanyi Ugwuanyi. Conversely, Sokoto State Governor and Chairman of the PDP Governors Forum, Aminu Waziri Tambuwa, Fourth Republic Vice President Alhaji Atiku Abubakar, former Senate President Dr. Bukola Saraki are on the other side, on the tally of 15, but 3 states won by PDP during the 2019 poll, while 8 are from the south. Only 4 are from the north, namely Bauchi, Benue, Sokoto, and Taraba. Out of the governors of Abia, Akwa Ibom, Bayelsa, Delta, Edo, Enugu, Oyo, and Rivers, those of Akwa Ibom and Rivers, Udom Emmanuel and Wike, have declared their intentions to contest next year's presidential poll. It is not only the mix of presidential aspirations that is dividing the fold of PDP governors, but the unstable political trajectory of some of its leaders, whose past decisions assisted in PDP's dethronement from the presidency in 2015. As the zoning controversy rages, the Rivers State governor declared that the journeymen should no longer consider themselves as founding fathers of the PDP. Speaking when he visited Benue State Governor Dr. Samuel Otom, Wike recalled the antecedents of some of those angling to fly the party's flag, saying that their desperate ambition is putting PDP into possible electoral jeopardy. He stated, "In 2015, those who ran away made us lose the election. Today, they are crying, but some of us stood and said that the PDP would not die. By the time you ran away, you sold your shares as founding fathers. So you can no longer retain your position as a founding father. I stood for this party. I have worked for this party since 1998. I have nowhere to run to, and that is why anything that happens in this party, I take it personally. I have never relented." Frustrated by the insistence of the triocal of Tambuwa, Atiku, and Saraki to contest the presidential primary, Wike has given the impression that the only way peace could return to the PDP was for the party to take a definite position on zoning. A parallel line has been drawn within the party as each camp has started drawing supporters to its sides. For instance, after his sudden declaration of intention to contest the presidential poll, former Ekiti State Governor Ayodele Fayose sided with his ally Wike by taunting Atiku and Saraki. Fayose contended that after the gesture allowed them in 2019, both Atiku and Saraki lack the moral right to seek the PDP presidential ticket again when the position should go to the south. The former Ekiti State Governor said PDP's electoral fortunes from Adamawa, Kwara, and Sokoto states, where Atiku, Saraki, and Tambuwa hail, do not give a picture that any of them could win the presidential poll if given the PDP ticket. He stated, "With due respect to the former Vice President Alhaji Atiku Abubakar, what was PDP's performance in the presidential election in 2019? We only won with 20,000 votes, even in Adamawa, in his home state. This tells us something fundamental." Coming to the immediate past Senate President Bukola Saraki, "How did PDP perform in the last election in Kwara? We lost. What does that tell us? And in Sokoto, how did we perform?" Piqued by Fayose's scathing and derogatory remarks on Atiku and Saraki, Saraki's ally, Senator Dino Melaye, joined the fray, despite the fact that he's not a presidential aspirant. Although Fayoshe's aspiration for the presidential ticket of PDP seems to be his own way of amplifying the clamor for the zoning of the ticket to the south. Malaye said the former Ekiti governor was not qualified to lampoon those who once deserted the party because he also left the PDP at a time to contest for the senatorial seat under Labour Party. Back in 1998, when Second Republic Vice President Alex Ekwueme and a group of 8 patriots, later known as the G34, formed what later became the People's Democratic Party (PDP), their stated intention was to build a national political movement guided by equity and justice. It was therefore the group's patriotic intent to rotate the presidential and other prominent political positions between the North and the South. In 1998, the G34 noted that ever since Nigeria adopted the presidential system of democracy, virtually all the leaders of the country, from President Shehu Shagari through Generals Muhammadu Buhari, Ibrahim Babangida, Sani Abacha, and Abdulsalami Abubakar, were from the North. That fact informed the Provisional Military Council under General Abubakar, who was overseeing the final implementation of the transition from military rule to civilian governance, to insist that the next national leader should come from the South. It was also gathered that some resolution was taken, in part, due to the need to assuage the feelings of alienation against the Yoruba of Southwest owing to the annulment of the June 12, 1993 presidential election believed to be won by Chief Moshood Kashimawo Olawale Abiola. In line with its power-sharing arrangement, Dr. Ekwueme relinquished the office of national chairman to Chief Solomon La. Immediately, it became obvious that the presidential standard-bearer of the party would emerge from the southern Nigeria. As was expected, a new entrant to the party, General Olusegun Obasanjo, a former military head of state, who was favored by the military, slugged it out with the G34 leader and former Second Republic Vice President Ekwueme at the PDP National Convention and presidential primary election in Jos, capital of Plateau State, for the party's ticket. Obasanjo, who captured the PDP presidential ticket, went on to win the main election by defeating his kinsman and former secretary to the government of the Federation (SGF) Chief Olu Falaye of the Alliance for Democracy (AD) and All People's Party (APP) alliance. In 2003, 4 years after Obasanjo mounted the saddle, an attempt by some PDP state governors to spread the maximum of 8 years available to the president between South and West hit the brick wall. The idea of a single term of 4 years to make way for Dr. Ekwueme of Southeast, as reportedly proposed by the PDP governors led by Delta and Bayelsa state governors James Ibori and Dieprie Solomon Peters Alemesiag, did not work because Obasanjo was constitutionally entitled to a second term in office. However, a spectacular feature in the 2003 general election was that an attempt by some northern presidential aspirants, particularly former Second Republic Governor of Kano State, Alhaji Abubakar Rimi, to participate in the election was resisted by the PDP leadership. Citing the need to stick to the zoning principle, the PDP National Working Committee was said to have returned Rimi's 10 million naira in certified bank draft representing the cost of the presidential nomination form he sought to purchase. However, unlike what obtained nearly 20 years ago when some were prevailed upon not to contest the presidency on PDP's platform, some extraneous considerations have been injected, including ability to win the main election and capacity to fund the election campaigns. Meanwhile, a chieftain of the governing All Progressive Congress (APC) from Southeast, Mr. Osita Okechukwu, said, by jettisoning zoning convention, the main opposition party has violently breached his own constitution and the National Convention, which govern our Fourth Republic. PDP has shot itself on the foot and put itself in harm's way, thus endangered internal democracy, national unity, and abandoned its original stronghold, the Southern Belt. Whatever would eventually play out ultimately as major opposition selects its standard bearer would not be long in coming because the primaries are not more than 2 months away. Former Vice President Atiku had, while declaring his intention to seek nomination in PDP, disclosed that instead of being a usual election, the 2023 poll will be a referendum to decide whether we want greatness or continuous destructions.